Michigan is a hotbed for disturbing cryptid sightings. With everything from dogman to corn monsters and more, we've got the most disturbing ones for you today. The Michigan Dogman has been terrifying locals since at least 1887, when not one, but two lumberjacks shared their sighting of the creature. According to legend, this cryptid has a dog's head on a man's body, but it isn't a werewolf. It's the Dogman, who for most witnesses steps out of the trees in an isolated part of the woods, performs some acrobatic moves, and then tears off into the woods. It was described as a 7-foot-tall, blue-eyed, or amber-eyed, bipedal, canine-like animal with, yes, the torso of a man, but fearsome howls. But apparently they sound human. This creature was unknown to most of the modern world until very late in the 20th century. It is said to have been stalking the area around the Manistee River since the days when the Odawa tribes lived there. In 1937, in Paris, Michigan, not to be confused with Paris, Texas, or Paris, Canada, Robert Fortney was attacked by 5 wild dogs and said that one of the 5 walked on 2 legs. Flash forward to 2017, truck driver Joe Barger pulled over in the Dogman's territory in Manistee National Forest to fix a leaky tire. Well, I guess probably just a busted tire. According to Barger, he was under his vehicle fixing things up when he heard an unnatural animal call emanating from the woods. Assuming it came from a black bear, he fixed his thing, got in the vehicle, drove off, only to spot a giant wolf head in the open window of his very tall truck, keeping pace with the vehicle. Barger claimed the creature had huge white teeth with 3-inch long canines, long black ears, and huge, seemingly intelligent yellow eyes. After deciding the Dogman was kinda set on making him his next meal, Barger snagged his Colt and fired at the creature, blasting it into the weeds. Supposedly, the Dogman's body was gone when Barger turned around to check it out, and 2 people claimed they witnessed a bear fight where the body would have been. Going back a little bit of time, back in 1987, the legend of the Michigan Dogman gained popularity when a DJ at WTCM-FM recorded a song about the creature and its reported sightings. And he based the songs on actual reports. So this song was recorded with a keyboard backing and it was credited to Bob Farley. After the song was played on air, Cook received calls from listeners who said they'd had a lot of encounters. In the weeks after the song was first played, it was the most requested song on the station. Cook also sold cassettes of the songs for $4 and donated proceeds from the single to an animal shelter. Oh, before I forget, have you noticed anything in common with all these years? So according to legends, the Dogman appears in a 10-year cycle that falls on years ending in 7. And at the end of the day, sightings have been reported in several locations throughout Michigan, but primarily in the northwestern quadrant of the Lower Peninsula. So if you see a Dogman, a lot of believers think that if you simply clap, you're gonna scare it away. So try that. Good luck. As the legend goes, locals of the village of Winn in central Michigan claim a corn monster lurks in the cornfields. To be specific, a shadowy figure that looks like a large, disheveled man emerges from the stalks and scares anyone driving in the rural area late at night. It's located near the intersection of South Winn Road and West Blanchard Road in Fremont Township, Isabella County, which is about 12 miles southeast of Mount Pleasant. There was allegedly an encounter in 2003 from a delivery man who stopped on a country road near Winn one night to just rest. The driver admitted that he occasionally felt before that night that there was something trying to reach out of the corner of his truck whenever he would drive down that road, but that night, things got different. He got out of his truck, wanted to just stretch his legs, and the next thing he knew, a frightening human-like creature appeared on the edge of the cornfield. He described this creature as unexplainable, dark, dirty, man-like, and our guy screamed, scrambled back into the vehicle, and drove off, passing by the thing as it stared at him until he was out of sight. As a matter of fact, the area in which the Winn corn monster has been seen is very, very little. Nearly every encounter has been on that road, so Co Road, in Isabella County. It's interesting though, like to think about why this creature decided to stay in such a small area, and how it remains so elusive. Also, like, what's gonna happen if they plant something other than corn in those fields? Does it become the soybean monster, the wheat monster, the cabbage monster? Those are also shorter crops, so then our monster's gonna have to crawl. Also, where does he go when the corn is harvested? Does he have like a cabin in the nearby woods? Scary movies and stories have taught, well, me enough at least, that if there's a scary cornfield, don't go near it. So what other residents have experienced this creature? Like, because there's gotta be some. Maybe it's time to take a trip. If you try to find out more about this legend, by the way, be aware that a lot of the online sites spell the town as W-Y-N-N, but the correct spelling, according to maps at least and the town welcome sign, is W-I-N-N. The Wahila is said to be a wolf-like creature the size of a bear that roams northern Michigan, Canada, and Alaska. It doesn't travel in groups, it's very solitary, likely due to its massive size and lack of local predators. So it's larger and more heavily built than normal wolves, with a wide head and proportionally larger feet and long, pure white fur. The animal's hind legs are said to be shorter than the front legs, and the tracks show widely spaced toes. Witnesses describe this as being 3.5 feet to 4 feet at the shoulder. Legends describe the Wahila as an evil spirit with supernatural powers and describe it as doing what? Just killing people and removing their heads. It has been theorized that the Wahila is an amphicyonid, which is a prehistoric carnivore of the Miocene era, or a dire wolf, a prehistoric hyena, or maybe even a completely new species of canine. The Wahila supposedly travels through a section of land called the Nahanni Valley on its way to and from Alaska. The area is also known as Headless Valley, due to the large number of headless corpses found in it, all attributed to the Wahila. The snow-white creature allegedly travels silently on its massive paws and simply chomps the head of any unfortunate person it encounters on its way. According to an old Lowe legend, a ferocious hyena-like animal once roamed the American prairies, and due to its habit of killing and devouring dogs, the Lowe called this creature the Shunka Warakin, which translates to carrying off dogs. Every night this creature snuck into Lowe camps, and every morning a couple more dogs were found missing. So when the folks figured out that this had gone on long enough, they decided to ambush the animal. Armed with muskets and bows and arrows, they crouched in the darkness beside their teepees, not far from where the dogs were tethered. Suddenly, a strange wolf-like creature slinked into camp from out of the darkness. Nobody had ever really seen anything like it before. The very brave folks sprang from their hiding places and peppered the animal with arrows and musket balls. Incredibly, the missiles failed to bring the creature down, and they only made it angry. With a crazy shriek, the animal lunged at its tormentors. The warriors drove it back with their spears and clubs, and after a tremendous struggle, the animal retreated back into darkness. And everybody was like, let's follow it. They tracked the creature throughout the night and most of the following day, and eventually they did manage to corner it. The creature put up a very good last stand and fought to the bitter end. When it finally fell, it cried just like a human being. Once the creature was dead, a lot of folks skinned its carcass, painted its hide, and placed it in a medicine bundle. It was under the belief that whoever wore this medicine bundle in battle would be immune to enemy weapons, much like the monster whose skin it contained. The Nain Rouge, or Red Dwarf, is more than a cryptid to the city of Detroit. It's a devilish embodiment of the hardships that have befallen the city throughout its existence. According to legend, before every disaster in the city, the Red Dwarf makes an appearance to foretell the upcoming hardship. The first sighting of the Demon of the Strait occurred in 1701, when Antoine de la Motte Cadillac, founder of Detroit, allegedly saw the being sitting on a bench. When the dwarf poked a stick at Cadillac, he retaliated with a drawn sword and nailed his adversary into retreat. As a result, Cadillac lost all of his money and moved back to France. Every hardship that befell Detroit from that moment forward came with an alleged sighting of the dwarf, sometimes climbing light poles disguised as a little human. Immediately before the catastrophic events, it's been spotted before riots, snowstorms, big battles, and a lot of other events. And finally for today, Dowagiac is the town in which reputable sources have supposedly spotted the odd Dewy Lake monster ever since the 1960s. These sources claimed a beast resembling a gorilla, bear, and cat mixed together, measuring 10 feet tall and covered with fur, has chased after multiple residents. In June of 1964, a woman claimed the 500-pound cryptid chased her into her home, and 3 more girls said they encountered it later that night on a wooded roadway. Multiple armed locals are said to have combed the woods looking for the monster who frightened the girls and the woman, but they found nothing. Some say the large creature is also armed with claws and scales, allowing it to swim in its namesake lake. So perhaps the monster is just living up to its name and hiding beneath the surface of water until it can roam the woods again. Or maybe it's taking a page out of Nessie's book.
Number 5, the deer. Coming up first today on our list of Skinwalker footage that has everybody double checking the family pets and other assorted wildlife to make sure they haven't been replaced with any sinister shape-shifting shamans, is this little clip from TikTok of a member of the corvidae family acting real bizarre. That's a fancy word for deer. I want to make sure you learn something every day. Roll the clip. Now, someone is out in the woods late at night hunting by themselves, which if any horror movie has ever taught me anything at all, not a good idea. I mean, they clearly know it's not a good idea either, since the caption of the video is "always hunt with others, something isn't right with this deer," and that much is obvious. The deer is staring into the camera with empty eyes. It's got that total deer in the headlights look, probably because it's a deer in the headlights. Is that where that saying comes from? You'd think the buck might be scared of the car pulled in front of it or the people filming, but instead it just seems to stare back with that empty-eyed stare. Now, when it turns its head, we can see the thing's bottom jaw hanging open, limp, as if it's barely being held together by decaying tissues, or if the deer's reanimated like a zombie. Now, this could be a shape-shifting shaman of Dene folklore, or a little bit more likely, and you know I like to play the skeptic, it could be a deer suffering from a horrible disease called epizootic hemorrhagic, which occurs when a deer is bitten by a midge, that's a disgusting little mosquito-like bug carrying the virus, which wreaks all sorts of havoc to the deer's neurological systems, causing it to act abnormally and very scary, and I would wager that most footage you find online of a deer acting strange could be traced back to this. Another common symptom of EHD is the deer's tongue swelling to uncomfortable sizes, which would leave its maw agape and sort of give off that terrifying look of the deer's jaw sort of like hanging around by a thread there. Now, EHD isn't considered a risk to humans, so you don't have to worry about it too much, but if you were a deer watching this video right now, oh buddy, if you were a deer, I'd tell you to be careful, okay? It's midge season, and you don't want your legacy as a deer to be ending up in one of these videos. And if you're looking for more videos of all sorts of bizarre things that no one can explain, well, that's what Top 5 Scary trades in spades. We've got so much of that. We got aliens, ghouls, cryptids, goblins galore, anything freaky you can think of, we've got 2 to 4 videos on it. So hit subscribe, please make sure you ring that little bell as well so you're not missing a single beat, but do that at the end of this video if you wouldn't mind so much, because I got 4 more clips of weird skinwalker things around the net that I would just love to show you. Number 4. Wade Lanagan. Coming up next is going to be this video that was posted to TikTok by users Wade Lanagan, showing a pretty horrifying suburban little scene. Something that I found kind of interesting whenever I do these videos, I do research, is that a lot of mythology and folk tales about skinwalkers sort of incorporate how bad they want to worm their way into your house. Makes sense, that's where you live, I guess, and they want to get at you. Now, obviously, you should do just about whatever it takes to prevent this from happening. In this clip, we see exactly that in practice. A young mother and her child are at home when they're apprehended by someone, or perhaps more accurately, something. Something that's slamming at the door. Now, in this clip, it certainly looks like a person, but it screeches like a monster out of your worst nightmare. So some sort of ear-scratching scream that shouldn't be coming out of any living thing. And it seems to be covered in some sort of red liquid, although maybe it's just me, but it does look a little bit like Cheeto dust. I'm not saying a skinwalker can't eat a little flaming hot Cheeto now and again. I don't really know what they eat, actually. I've always assumed they eat man, but maybe they're omnivorous and like a snack here and there. The strange being runs off, but before the mother and child can catch their breath, we hear that same familiar knocking slamming away on the door, and the video cuts out. But if you really like that video, don't worry, I'm not gonna post for Top 5 twice, and you wanted to see more and more about the family, going onto their TikTok account reveals a 4-part series of videos chronicling their tracking of a possible skinwalker and their eventual pursuit by one. Now, these clips, you know, I'm not gonna lie to you, these are definitely just a home production, but I wanted to put them up because I thought they were fun, you know? I talk about horror movies on the channel all the time, and what is a TikTok if not a very short horror movie for people who've got places to be? I've got nothing but love for anyone making horror content at home, so if you were interested in this and you liked it, give the channel a check out. Wade Lanagan, they got lots more spooky paranormal stuff on TikTok for you to enjoy. Number 3, do you believe? Coming in next today is going to be this clip that was posted to TikTok by a user by the name of Do You Believe? Do you believe? We do. That's exactly why we're here today, baby. We believe. Now, this video takes place in the pitch black of night, looking in someone's backyard as someone is staring into the eyes of what looks like a neighborhood dog. But if you learned anything from this video so far, it's that looks can be fairly deceiving. The dog isn't the uploaders, as they don't recognize the animal and they're a bit unnerved by Fido coming forward towards them. The eyes seem to be staring deep through the internet and directly into my soul just a little bit. The dog keeps approaching slowly before finally jumping out at the person recording the video and also coincidentally sending me recoiling about 5 feet back from my screen and my phone flying across the room. No relation though. Now this clip definitely had people talking though, with just as many people suggesting that it could just be a dog doing what a dog does and being kind of silly in a backyard. I could certainly see that. Dogs are known to be silly, but this dog is definitely creepy. I don't know if they taught this dog to behave like this, but the way it stalks has me scratching my head just a little bit. Now there are some commenters on this video who say that they find this video cuter than they do scary, which is definitely fair. It is a cute dog, if not a scary one. So as always, whenever there's a bit of unknown in the air, there's a little room for discussion and speculation, I toss it over to you, my faithful YouTube commenter gang. Is this just a regular old Labrador with its eyes hitting the camera just right? Or is there something about this old dog that ain't what it seems? Could this be a bit of a Cujo situation? Does this thing know any new tricks like shapeshifting? Number 2, creepy reel. Coming up next is going to be this clip that was posted to TikTok by the user Creepy Reel. Creepy Reel. Well, I do videos that are real creepy. Thank you. Oh no, please, I'm here all week. That pun is what my degree paid for. Reading is not what my degree paid for. I didn't go to school for book learning, I went to school for talking. Now this next video is short and sweet. We see someone getting chased by something. We don't really get too good a look, but honestly that could be a mercy. What we can see is that the person chasing our cameraman seems to be human, but not doing a perfect job of it. The caption calls it a human disguised as a skinwalker. Now, I found something kind of interesting about this video. I thought it was pretty creepy, gave me the heebie-jeebies, but as I was going through the comments on this one, I noticed that every third comment was someone saying this isn't a skinwalker, but rather a Jin. In fact, seriously, if you look at the link, almost every comment is alleging this, as if this is a very known practice and we're all fools for making the mistake. So I did a little digging and I thought I'd share what I learned. Jin are thought to be spirits, creatures that are thought to originate from Islamic folktales. They are considered to be invisible creatures, but can take the form of humans as well as various animals, predominantly slimy things like snakes. They're pretty similar to skinwalkers, all things considered, but while a skinwalker is a shape-shifting shaman cast off from Dene society, a Jin was born into the world of spirit. Interestingly too, Jin are thought to neither be evil or good, but just rather are, and each are their own unique entity with their own desires and drives. It's thought that you can only see a Jin if they want you to see them, so if this creature really is a Jin chasing our cameraman, well, there must be some reason for it. Of course, the possible reason for it is that it is TikTok, and downright likely that this is someone trying to get a few clicks on TikTok, or just something scary that happened and made for some great views. Regardless, made my hair stand on end a little bit. I hope it freaks you out ever so slightly too. And if you know a little bit more about Jins and the difference between Jins and skinwalkers, please share some of that information with the casual crypt keeper. I love to learn, and you all are a great source of information for me. And number 1, wilderness survival. Coming in at this number 1 spot is this very strange clip that was uploaded. Let me tell you, if you're looking for weirdness on the internet, yeah, Top 5 Scary is an amazing place. I do some great work finding it for you, but TikTok really is the place to be. It's the strangest black hole on the internet for a reason. This clip was going around the front page recently, and it's not hard to see why. In it, we can see what looks like a fairly dated old analog VHS footage of what I can make out as some countryside. I'm not sure where though. I'm not a geoguesser guy. The sights of the American countryside sure would be beautiful if it weren't for the gut-wrenching screaming that you can hear in the background as someone is begging and pleading for anyone, please, anyone to come help. But as the camera pans and zooms, there doesn't seem to be anyone around for miles except for whoever is filming and a single mysterious person standing alone in a field, completely ignorant to it all, as if they don't even hear it. In fact, the person standing there doesn't seem to really even be there, you know what I mean? Sort of gently swaying in the breeze like a scarecrow. Could it be that this is a skinwalker and the sounds we hear are the last panicked screams it heard from one of its victims? It's considered a trait of skinwalkers that not only are they able to take on the form of any animal or human that they wish, but they're also able to mimic other humans' speech or animal cries with perfect clarity, and that pain in the person's screams are super creepy. And if you thought this clip was super duper creepy, I've got fantastic news for you. This clip was an excerpt from Gemini Home Entertainment, a fantastic series of online internet horror videos presented as an anthology of old VHS tapes, much like the super successful VHS film series if you know those. This one is from the one titled Wilderness Survival Guide, and it's honestly one of the better ones in the series. I would super recommend it. Definitely if you like any of this sort of stuff, like analog horror, skinwalkers, crediting artists, any of that stuff, give it a watch.
Catching an S-Walker on camera? Not impossible, but not an easy feat. And I think it's worth your time paying attention. For starters today, a TikTok user driving around at night claimed to have captured the moment a pale creature leapt towards them through a patch of long grass and just came right at them. While a portion of the millions of viewers who watched the video claim the creature is a mythical S-Walker, other more skeptical viewers are like, maybe this is an attempt to fool people. So it's up to you, dear viewer. Help me decide in the comments whether this is real or not. The clip, uploaded by TikTok user It's Louis Vuitton, appears to be capturing a grassy area being lit up by a flashlight held by the person filming from the car. It sounds as though those occupying the car are scouring the area for animals, since we hear a voice say, "I thought I'd seen a big buck or something." The voice continues, asking their companion, who is presumably driving, "Is that a buck?" Which, by the way, if you want to see a moose on the road, no you don't. At this point, their companion's voice cuts in, shrieking, "What is that?" The camera then focuses on a pale, human-like creature, which appears to be really coming through the grass towards the vehicle. The original narrator's voice also sounds panicked, saying, "Dude, what is that?" So at this point, the camera swerves down and the clip abruptly ends. The TikTok user did not say what or who they thought the creepy looking figure could be. The video was just titled "Scary," accompanied by a shocked emoji. The video had proven popular on TikTok, garnering like 900,000 likes, 6 million views, got a lot of traction. Now, a lot of folks weighed in on what they thought it could be, according to the Daily Star. Some folks were like, yeah, this is definitely an S-Walker, which if you don't know, that's a mythical creature from indigenous legend, said to roam around the wilderness at night. It's a kind of witch and has the ability to transform into a variety of animals. Somebody commented, S-Walker, Rake, or Pale Man. And somebody else was like, definitely S-Walker or Winged Spirit. They're dangerous. A third person was like, that's an S-Walker if I ever saw one. Alrighty folks, your time to shine. Let me know in the comments if you haven't already. Is this an S-Walker? So next up we have a video that shows that there's definitely something out there. Definitely some sort of weird creature. Could be a fairy tale monster. Could be an S-Walker. And it kind of changed a lot of folks' concept of a lot of things. And for them, it was definitive proof that there's dogs with extraordinary abilities that aren't myths and are probably related to the legends. The video was supposedly recorded in Chile and shared by the Twitter, UFO Logo Julio, a page famous for its paranormal content. The video shows what appears to be a stray dog walking near a house at night, but in a matter of seconds and before our eyes, the animal, somehow, begins to slowly transform into a person. So as expected, public opinion has been divided. Somebody's like, hey, the video's edited, maybe this is AI. And everybody else is like, no, like, creatures exist, this is probably pretty real. S-Walker stories are commonly found in indigenous culture, which is prevalent in a lot of areas in the southwestern United States. And these creatures, which keep a lot of folks awake at night, are associated with witchcraft. You can include coyotes, other creatures associated with death or the announcement of evil, under this umbrella. People who want to become these evil creatures are actually capable of harming their own families to do so. Not only can S-Walkers transform, but they can also take control of animals and even people, which makes more sense to see why you might see the occasional goat or coyote walking on two legs. Now, if you're wondering by now, hey Alexa, why aren't you saying the name of the creatures in full? Well, it's because A, I'm not indigenous, and B, it's an overall forbidden thing to talk about them. Especially at night, seeing as a lot of folks consider that a way of attracting these creatures, and I don't need any more bad mojo in my life. Legend has it that the worst thing you can do if you see an S-Walker is to follow the creature in question, because they can manipulate you into taking you to your inner circle of people, and then it's the end for you. The only way to allegedly get rid of one, if they're already haunting you, say their name and see what happens, and just do your best, folks. Back in February of this year, a wildlife camera snapped an eerie figure dubbed an elemental with glowing eyes protruding from the dark of a forest. This haunting creature was picked up on a camera that was set up deep in the woods, but it wasn't meant to capture any sort of weird being of any sinister variety. It was meant to pick up deer tracks. Instead, the folks got this beast. So with glowing eyes and a hunched over appearance, the grim beast appears to have set off the movement tracker and offered up this really unsettling selfie, which then made its way to Facebook. It was specifically a group titled Ghosts of London, and some folks were like, yeah, this isn't a ghost, this is a whole lot more, and we've got problems. Now sure, well, what they consider elementals and ghosts might serve the same purpose to the Facebook group. This creature has more ties to the occult. And they're like, yeah, nope, this is definitely an S-Walker. Somebody was like, that, my friends, is an elemental, a being comprised of only the energies of the earth itself. And there was a lot of chiming in and being like, yep, nope, this is something eerie. This is something we need to pay attention to. The original poster wrote, so this was a camera set up in the woods, set up to take photos when it senses movement. Main purpose is to take photos of deer and other wildlife. And they said that there was no people that could be in the woods at that time, especially without the owners of the property knowing, and it had to be moving to set the camera off. So then we've got even more freaked out Facebook users being like, this thing has eyes that chill me. And another person was very much worried about the pairs of eyes behind the elemental. Some folks were like, maybe this is a W-worded being, which is a shape-shifting creature that can mimic the voices of people it comes into contact with, and the sounds of woodland creatures. Over here, we think it's an S-Walker. Back in 2018, this next crazy video went viral, claiming to show a 6-foot eerie faceless creature reportedly stalking a moose in the Canadian wilderness. And that's just terrifying. The video, which has been viewed more than 30,000 times, was posted by Audrey Tanguay-Fréchette, who was unable to explain the footage. So they were filming a moose on a roadside in Quebec, and they said looking back at the video they saw a strange shape in the back left. Could somebody tell them what it was? Now it's unclear what was captured on film, but some commenters were like, hey, it's Gollum, the character from The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. Somebody else was like, my precious, and also my bad impression, I'm so sorry folks. But you know what that line's from, Lord of the Rings. Now even more people had fun with it. They're like, maybe it's a rake, a mythical creature that hunts animals without rhyme or reason. They were like, yeah, that looks like a rake-type creature stalking the moose. It must be pretty tall too. Well, the creature appears to stand up on its hind legs, but it's not clear how tall it is. News outlets called it a 6-foot-tall monstrosity, so you know what we think at this point. And finally for today, while this last spotting is kind of unknown in terms of what kind of cryptid it is, I really think it's some sort of shifter and possibly an S-Walker. This video was courtesy of user Valhu on TikTok, who opened their front door to a creature that almost looks like a deer, but it's missing some important body parts that you use to listen with, and other body parts are not in the right spot. So it's referenced as a not deer, but there's been arguments made online that believe not deer are actually just S-Walkers, but misclassified. These creatures, they kind of look similar to a newborn deer, but then they appear as adults, because, well, the creature might be double jointed, they might have additional joints in their limbs, and also the eyes just aren't in the right spot for all of these creatures. They're supposed to be on the side of the head, but they're more in a predator spot, which means shifting. Now, they tend to pop up a lot in Tennessee, and this spotting, though, came from somewhere in Southern California, and it's just so weird.
Number 5. The Grove. On a backcountry camping trip, Patrick was staying at a site he had frequented previously. During his stay, there was a coyote that would often be near, but never out in the open. Patrick explained that he could almost sense the presence of the coyote. He would be able to catch a glimpse of it out of the corner of his eyes or in his peripheral vision, but he never came face to face with the animal. On the last day, Patrick was packing his truck in preparation for heading home from his trip. He began to drive down the path. At the end of the first section, he noticed that the coyote was following behind his fast-moving truck. When Patrick turned onto the paved road, he was terrified to discover that the coyote was running next to him. Patrick sped up in an attempt to escape the creature, pushing to about 35 miles per hour. The creature continued to run beside the truck, only falling behind when Patrick sped up even more. In the rearview mirror, Patrick could see that the animal was now running on 2 legs, standing up, and wearing what looked to be buckskin pants. When he next looked, Patrick said he saw a man wearing coyote fur keeping up with his truck. The next time Patrick looked back, the creature was gone. Number 4. The Skinwalker by the River. In British Columbia on a cold and windy day, a student named Rouge was expecting his day to carry on like usual. He never would have expected to be arriving at school, choking back tears. His house is located across from a large river. Across the river was a small one-car bridge surrounded by woods. He had to walk across the bridge every morning to get to school. This morning was very cold. The river that ran below the bridge was frozen over completely. The air was frigid and biting. As he approached the bridge, his eye was caught by a figure lurking at the edge of the bush. From a distance, he assumed it was a coyote, which he frequently saw in the area. But as he continued towards the bridge, he noticed the size of the creature. The creature began to stand taller, and it was around the size of a bear or a wolf. The creature seemed to glance at him. Rouge walked even closer to the bridge and then stopped in his tracks. He could clearly see that the creature standing before him was not a coyote, wolf, or bear. It was standing tall, with its knees bent backwards as if its legs were inverted. The body was thin and frail, with delicate skin that showed the protruding ribs and spine. The bones looked as though even the slightest movement would cause them to break through the struggling skin of the creature. He stayed staring at the creature and took another step forward. Faster than the blink of an eye, the creature's head snapped up, its dark, lifeless eyes staring back at his. The mouth moved, before the creature let out an inhuman screech. With tears in his eyes, Rouge watched as the creature then hunched down to all fours and darted across the frozen river, all within a split second. Rouge ran across the bridge to the school, hearing twigs snapping behind him, as though he was being followed. Number 3. Security scared. Canadian security guards were terrified when they stumbled across an eerie camouflaged creature crawling towards them in the woods. The creature blended in with the darkened grass, hardly noticeable among the dense bush surrounding it. The workers decided to investigate the creature, going into the woods in an attempt to locate it. In a video, the being is recorded crawling through the grass towards the women who are standing outside of their car. The terrified women continuously question what the animal is, freaked out by the mysterious being. The women got back into their car and drove closer, hoping to catch a clear view of the creature so they could identify it. Though the women were able to get closer, the creature still did not become any more clear. It blended into the cleared path that it was on, lacking any defining features. The creature began to walk towards the women, who quickly and smartly decided to back away. They posted the video footage, and commenters immediately began to identify the creature as a skinwalker. Many were also worried about the safety of the women, warning them of the danger of approaching a skinwalker. One commented, "Skinwalker, do not whistle. Save yourself now, sister. Please listen." Whistling is known to attract skinwalkers, who often whistle back. Other commenters theorized that the creature could have been Bigfoot or a large wolf. The two women are fine and have not reported any later disturbances as a result of the experience. Number 2. Yenel Dlushi is watching me. A grandchild writes about her experience with skinwalkers. Their grandmother was half Navajo and half Irish. The grandmother was also very superstitious. The writer explains that their grandmother was extremely superstitious and believed in paranormal occurrences. The writer recalls visiting their grandmother. They would spend time together doing normal family things. But the curtains were always completely drawn, and at times the grandmother would peek out through the curtains, pulling back only enough to see without fully opening them. When the family would ask the grandmother what she was doing, she would always reply with the same thing: "Yenel Dlushi is watching me." The days continued in the same way, the grandmother always keeping the curtains drawn closed and peeking out every now and again. Nearing the end of the visit, the writer's younger brother was in the front garden planting flowers, having a good, calm time. Abruptly, their grandmother began to yell, "Get away from that creature, it's not safe." The writer, who was inside, assumed that their grandmother was talking about a snake or scorpion. They frantically ran outside without hesitation to see what was happening. Outside, on the side of the house, the grandma was clutching the brother and trembling in terror. Standing in the yard was a huge, black, Great Dane-sized creature that stared at the grandmother with soul-piercing intensity. The animal stared its yellow eyes at the grandmother and small child, before huffing and quickly leaving. The writer's mother kept asking what had happened, and the grandmother continually repeated, "The Yenel Dlushi has found me." The grandma moved houses only a few weeks after that. The writer still recalls the story, which took place over a decade ago, with astounding clarity. It is unlikely that the grandmother was ever found by the Yenel Dlushi again, and the writer has not reported any other incidents. Number 1. It had a dog's body, but with human hands and feet. This writer shares their story of staying with their grandmother and cousins during their adolescence. After a game of truth or dare, a heart-stopping and heartbreaking turn of events occurred. The grandmother grandmother's house was in a suburban, heavily forested area in Michigan. The neighbors are a short drive away from the road at the front of the house, but the back of the house led into a forest, filled only with man-made paths. Each of the houses was on a hill. The only part of them that was fully underground was the basement. The cousins were all young, and the writer was in the middle age range of the group. The cousins had created a fire pit in the back of the house. It was located in a small patch of open space, out of sight from any of the neighboring houses. They would frequently sit there, having fires and share scary stories. One night, after sharing the scary stories, the group decided to play a game of truth or dare. The writer's older cousin dared them to walk through the paths, which were darkening from the setting sun, for 10 minutes. The writer accepted, along with their younger cousin. The pair walked into the woods, hoping that the light left in the sky would be enough to allow them to see for the next 10 minutes. The pair tripped through the woods, squinting and following the paths. They walked for about 5 minutes, turning back when they could hardly see the fire. Upon turning, the pair froze in fear from the creature before them. In the middle of the path stood a large dog-like creature, hunched over with its front hands merely an inch from the ground. The creature had bright, almost glowing white eyes. It had a dog-like body, a human head, hands and feet. The pair stood, petrified, as though they were turned to stone, unable to move or scream. The creature dashed the opposite direction, towards the small river. The duo screamed and sprinted back to the house. The cousins all slept in a room with large glass sliding doors that overlooked the forest at the back of the house. In the morning, the writer skipped breakfast, as their cousins were outside playing. Once outside, they were met with their cousins running towards the house to get their grandma. In the distance, the writer could see the grandmother's 2 dogs in the yard, deceased, and their bodies had obviously been attacked. That night, they all went to bed early. In the middle of the night, the writer was woken by something hitting their head. They sat up to see all of their cousins sitting silently, staring at them. A younger cousin motioned towards the large windows. The writer cautiously turned their head to the sliding glass doors to see a, as they said, really messed up face pressed against the glass. The writer screamed, louder than they had thought was possible, causing the creature against the glass to bolt away. The grandmother called the police, who were unable to locate the creature, and has never stayed there in the night again.
Number 5. Weird deer. Coming up first today on our list of strange sightings is going to be this first clip, which was lovingly uploaded to TikTok with the caption, "WTF deer." Now, of course, we all know what that means, but if you're not familiar with internet acronyms, WTF stands for, well, that's fantastic. And when you see the condition this deer is in, you'll probably say WTF too. In the clip, we can see a deer getting the heck out of Dodge, scampering out of the woods like somebody just flatlined Bambi's mom. It looks frightened, as if it knows something is up. Well, not even a few seconds after we're introduced to our deer, whatever has this deer so scared that it's causing to freeze up like a deer in headlights, a second deer comes running out with a head that's twisted every wrong way. The thing is checking its rear views while also looking forward. The snarled deer then charges forward into the night, hopefully to never be seen again. Now, when this was uploaded, the intent was that this was a skinwalker caught on camera. Skinwalkers, of course, being Dene or Navajo shamans who have been cast out of society for their practice of black magic and unsavory communion with spirits. They're outcasts from society, exiles. And they're traditionally said to be able to take the form of animals if they wish. They're considered witches, not cryptids, and it should be stated too that indigenous people don't particularly enjoy these stories being repackaged. Now, in this clip, it seems to me like this is a deer with a bad neck injury, or maybe a manufacturing defect of some kind, struggling to survive. Now, while anything on this big blue marble is possible, to me, it's more likely this is just a deer who's probably in extreme pain than it is a shape-shifting witch. Personally, if I could shapeshift, I would shapeshift into a deer that had a regular neck. You let me know what you'd shapeshift into. And if you're looking for more footage of shape-shifting animals, creepy crawlers, ghouls and goblins, ghosts, conspiracies, true crime, fake crime, and a whole lot more, Top 5 Scary has all of that and then some. Seriously, if you can think it up, we've got a video or 2 on it. So click on through, hit subscribe, please make sure to hit that little bell so you don't miss anything, but if you do me a favor, do that at the end of this video, because I got 4 more weird things found in the woods coming up for you right now. Number 4, friendly neighbor. Our next clip is one that maybe you've seen before if you're like me and spend the days trolling the web for supernatural content, as it's a pretty freaky one. Now, there's some skepticism all around this script, you know? I'm naturally a bit of a skeptic. I'm more of a Scully than a Mulder. But this next clip is pure weird. We can see someone or something crawling around in the woods. Now, it looks human, but isn't that the whole point, to look deceptively human? Well, whatever this humanoid is, we get an up close and personal look at this thing crawling in an extremely comfortable way that doesn't look human. Humanoid moves like a zombie, moving like a puppet with tangled strings. Now, I would think a shapeshifter, if they got caught by someone, would transform into a wolf or a cougar or maybe a hawk and get on out of there, right? And maybe we're catching this creature at a bad time, mid-transformation, as we see the humanoid attempt to build up a bit of momentum by getting down on all fours and trying to accelerate forward. Now, I do feel like I have to address the elephant in the room here. I don't want to talk down to you or play ignorant. Now, this could be a shape-shifting witch of legend, but we should also address the very real possibility that this clip of someone shirtless walking around on all fours behaving extremely odd in what looks to be a backwoods part of Virginia, maybe. This could very easily be someone on substances, or all of the substances, entirely possible by the way that little walk is going. This looks like there is a cocktail of things going on in that head right now. Whether or not this is a supernatural threat or a chemical one, we might not know, but I think we can all agree, completely horrifying, and I would prefer to never have to interact with that person. Number 3, that ain't no bug. And coming in right at our sweet little middle spot, here's a clip that I didn't think was the best, but I also didn't think was the worst. It's a perfectly neutral clip, perfect middle child of a clip. In this very short clip, we see someone driving through the backwoods late at night, real children of the corn kind of situation. Nothing but big stalks for miles and miles around, which is perfect actually, all the better for creatures of the night to stalk you in. That pun was a bit laborious, but we got there. In the clip, it seems like the driver notices a buck acting a bit strangely, until the camera zooms in ever so slightly, and you realize immediately, just like the title said, that ain't no buck. We see a bizarre creature on its hind legs running far, far away from the person filming, which I'm sure the person filming wasn't upset about at all. Now, this creature looks the most like what I think people imagine a skinwalker looks like when they imagine it. Some wretched mix of flesh and animal skin running through the night hunting for prey. I'm actually not sure what this could be. I mean, it could be somebody, again, on some substances running through the woods late at night. A lot of these, I've always got a possibility for what these creatures could be. I like to think I have a reasonable explanation for everything, but this, I don't know. All I can tell you for sure is that ain't no buck. It's an unexplained sighting caught on camera, after all. You want me to try and explain the unexplained? That's the whole purpose of it. They're unexplained. You simply can't explain them. Number 2, the corvid. Coming up next on our list of strange sightings of shape-shifting shamans is this video uploaded to TikTok of a raven that's got people saying, "No more!" Like nevermore, quoth the raven, Edgar Allan Poe. I don't know. Sometimes I'm struggling for jokes. It was uploaded to TikTok by user Lindsay Ivan, and I don't know, something about her, she seems familiar, like I've heard her name before. Anyway, in the video, we get an up-close and beautiful personal view of a beautiful raven with a very unnerving voice. It sounds as if it's got the voice of a human. Now, skinwalkers are said to be shape-shifting witches who can take the form of any animal they please and can mimic many voices. So is that what's happening here? Is that what this footage is? You sure that's why? Well, this next video I wanted to include solely because I wanted to debunk it, 1, and 2, take it as a small window of education for something I am very passionate about. Ravens are corvids, birds that are known for having hooked beaks and bristly feathers. They're usually black, although the blue jay is a very famous notable exception. Crows, ravens, magpies, jackdaws, jays, these are all corvids. Now, what makes corvids so interesting, and one of my favorite kind of birds out there ever, is they are unbelievably intelligent, with many ornithologists suggesting that ravens and crows, not only the smartest birds on the planet, but very well maybe like top 5 smartest animals out there. Among crows and ravens' many parlor tricks is that they're able to remember human faces. They understand the concept of causality. A raven understands what cause and effect is. Ravens can count, they've been shown making tools, they give gifts, they solve puzzles, and they can mimic sounds they hear with alarming clarity like a parrot. Everyone thinks of a parrot as a bird that can talk, but a crow and a raven can do it as well. So this beautiful bird in this clip is showing off his vocal range by mimicking human speech that he'd heard in a wondrous display of intellect from one of nature's most staggeringly impressive creatures. Or, of course, it could be a shape-shifting warlock of Dene legend that is grossly misattributed to almost every single random encounter on TikTok because the name sounds cool and people don't research things. Could be either one. Number 1, a scream in the woods. Coming up in the final spot today in our list of possible shapeshifters we just can't explain on camera is this viral video that's been making the rounds for its unexplained and terrifying nature. Now, this clip was originally uploaded under the name Strange Sounds While Mushroom Hunting. That sounds lovely. By user Tomorrow's Garden. Clicking through on the channel, we can see that they mostly stick to naturalist content, and when they're not doing that, they're reviewing the exciting world of stud finders and mouse traps. So supernatural hoaxes doesn't really seem to be a big part of their channel's identity, which is what makes this clip that much more real. In the clip, we see someone walking around a beautiful little forest as the user is checking out what's new with the local mycelium. Interrupting the bird song and the other beautiful sounds of the forest is a shrill scream that seems like it's come directly from hell, piercing not just your ears but your soul. Downright agonizing. Let's roll a clip of just that shrill shrieking. Pretty scary, right? Sounds like something that has crawled its way out of the depths of the pits of Tartarus and is deeply upset about it. Now, what unnerves me is how much you can maybe this doesn't make sense, hear a human scream inside the animal scream, if you follow me. The best part of this video though is that after the scream peters out, realizing that he's probably now hanging around somewhere where some sort of horrific flesh beast is lingering, he announces to himself very quietly, "I think it's time to go now." He says it so quietly and normally, it's hilarious. Unlike every horror movie guy ever, he just calmly decides to get out, and that's why he survived to upload this video, and Tomorrow's Garden, we thank you for it. Our first sighting today is a short clip that's been being passed around the paranormal corners of the internet, and for good reason. Could very well have a recording of one of these wretched creatures caught on tape. Let me roll just a little bit of it for you and see if you can decide for yourself just what's going on down there. It's hard to say exactly what's happening here without proper context. Unfortunately, the original person who posted it didn't add a lot. We can see a bunch of animals running through the forest migrating, or perhaps they're running to try and escape something, namely the very strange entity running behind them. We can see someone or something running swiftly, looking human-esque, but it feels more like something's doing an impression of a human, something that's wearing a human skin, if you catch my drift. Doesn't quite move how a man should. Its arms appear unnaturally long and out of proportion. It seems like a feral creature living amongst the animals in disguise. Now, not everyone agrees with what this creature could be. Some commenters have suggested that this could be a sighting of a rake, which is also sometimes called a crawler, a similarly reported cryptid. It's a long, skinny, humanoid looking thing, usually with pale or gray skin that lives out in the wood. Now, there are a bunch of differences between these creatures. For one thing, a rake is not a shapeshifter of any kind, whereas one of these is said to be able to take the appearance of any creature it wishes. It should also be noted that when we talk about skinwalkers, traditionally they're not actually cryptids or monsters, but rather a human who's capable of witchcraft. It's hard to keep all your scary humanoid cryptids straight in a line, but that's why you got Top 5 Scary to help out where you can. And if you're looking for way more scary stories of cryptids, well, my friend, you are already in the right place. If cryptids aren't your jam, we've got a video on just about every single freaky thing you can think of under the sun and above it. We got conspiracies, we got aliens, we got monsters, monster movies, you name it. Hit subscribe, hit that little bell so you don't miss a single scream, but you do that at the end of this video, okay? I got way more creature sightings coming for you right now. Number 4, another video sighting for you coming up. Well, of sorts, you'll see. This next one was uploaded to the internet about a month ago to Reddit, titled Navajo Depiction of a Skinwalker on Video Looking to Plant a Curse. Hey, you might want to check that your computer's got good antivirus software just in case some of that curse sort of leaks through the internet. That does happen sometimes. So keep that in mind as we roll this next clip. Maybe draw a little salt circle around where you're sitting just in case. Smudge your house with sage, I would advise. Now, this footage comes from a documentary, so it's not exactly the most real depiction of one of these creatures, but it's fun to watch. It's a documentary on the beast of native folklore and showcases a depiction or a dramatization of what a live sighting face to face with one could look like. It's pretty horrifying to see such a realistic depiction. I think you imagine these creatures and it's pretty scary, but then you see it in a tableau like this and you realize just how scary it is. We see a bunch of livestock running in a flock and a shadow darting between them as if your eyes are playing tricks on you. Is this just another shadow of the night? Is this an animal? Just your eyes? We then see the homeowner readying himself to defend against the particular attack. Now, something unnerving about the legend of these creatures is just how little there is said to be done against them. Some stories say that the way to fell one of these entities is by learning its name and shouting it against it. Now, some others say that traditional weapons have next to no use against one. Maybe you'll slow it down just a little bit, but that you need rituals and otherworldly magic to be able to actually stand a chance. And of course, there are some nihilistic stories that say once the creature has set its sights on you, well, it's kind of hopeless and there's not really anything you can do until your judgment comes. So the best advice for me, I would say, is to just never run into one at all, and if you even start to think you hear one, just book it out of Dodge. Number 3. Motoans. Motoans is a popular YouTuber and influencer known for BMX and motorcycling videos. Owen's a motorcycle enthusiast, and so his channel primarily focuses on motorcycle content, reviews of new bikes, advice for riders, general discussion about the wild world of motorcycling. But that's not all, he's also got videos about his personal experiences and his travels on 2 wheels, including almost coming dangerously close to death while in the woods while filming a video. You take a quick look at this clip posted to his Instagram, and you tell me what you think you hear or see. Probably something scary. While cycling, Owen comes across some bizarre sounds in the woods that he believes sounds like someone screaming out for help. It's hard to say that's not exactly what it sounds like, because it does sound like someone shrieking, but that could be something mimicking human calls. Now, more than a few people in the comments suggested this could be a mountain lion, because allegedly mountain lion calls sound like a shrieking woman. That's something hikers should be aware of. I've never heard that before. Now, I've got to say, Owen is a pretty wise guy, because as soon as he starts hearing mysterious screaming in the wild that he can't explain, instead of poking around the woods and trying to figure out what's happening, he rather intelligently chooses to get on his bike, rev up, and gets the heck out of there before he could get a chance to be introduced to whatever cryptid could have been lying out there. So what do you think, gang? Was that just a bobcat or a mountain lion out in the woods, or did he come very, very close to something he would not have wanted to see? Number 2, the proof is out there. Our next sighting comes to us today from the History Channel of all places. I guess in a way, it could be considered modern day history, right? It details a sighting by 2 Canadian security guards in 2021 of a possible sighting with this creature up close and personal. You see, it was May 2021 in Saskatchewan, and 2 security guards working on a Cree reservation were driving home after a 12-hour shift when they spotted something bizarre on the drive home. They recorded it, and we've got a bit of footage for you here to play. We'll roll it now and let us know what you think you can see down below. It's very difficult to make out entirely, but if you're really looking, and the video does outline it a bit, which helps, you can see a translucent, ghostly figure appearing in the clearing while they're driving. This figure seems formless, almost ethereal in a way, as if it's not even a solid creature. It blends in with the grass so well, it almost seems as if it's part of the scenery or wildlife that's straight up just come to life and sprouted out of the ground. Now, when this clip was posted, commenters were going wild because they thought this could be definitive proof of one of these shape-shifting evil medicine men caught on tape. Now, invisibility, or, being see-through, isn't usually described as being an ability of one of these creatures. I think people might be getting them confused with the Predator from the awesome action movie series. An important distinction to note when we talk about these things is that they're not cryptids per se. And shouldn't be talked about as such or considered like they're a creature or a wild animal, contrary to how it might seem, but rather the legend of these things is that they're shamans and medicine men who have isolated themselves from the rest of the tribe and way of life and are engaging in dark, unholy practices. Now, that's not to say that invisibility is totally impossible. It could be within the realm of these things. I think if you're shape-shifting, theoretically, you could also be turning invisible, but I'm just saying they have enough tricks up their sleeve already. Shape-shifting feels like enough of a cool party trick. You don't need to also add being invisible on that. Your resume's full enough. You got the job. Number 1, the Washington sighting. Now, our next sighting comes to us from Reddit, posted to the Skinwalker subreddit. It's a first-hand account of a Washington local describing what they thought they saw on a camping trip with their partner. The poster describes going camping with her boyfriend, the 2 of them having significant camping experience. They both grew up in a rural area surrounded by farmland, so they're no stranger to the outdoor. And they decided for a fun, romantic weekend camping trip to go camping about 45 minutes away from Yakima around indigenous territory. They pull up to the lake at about 10:45, and immediately on rolling up, the poster said she got a terrible feeling like deep in her stomach. She said it wasn't just like kind of a bad feeling about things, but a profoundly bad vibe, saying as if it felt like there was evil radiating deeply throughout her. I personally would turn the car around if that happened to me, but hey, power to you. She realizes as she's looking around the campsite, the reason she feels so strongly about this place is because she's had a dream about it before. It's not just deja vu or something, but something she had seen in her mind's eyes. She tells her boyfriend that she's dreamt this place, everything about it, every little detail, and goes into detail, talking about seeing a pale, creepy face with reflective eyes staring at her through the trees and then running as fast as she could. Pretty scary dream. So they pull up to the campsite eventually. Her boyfriend lights a smoke and they sit around the campfire and soon after start to hear screaming. But she says it doesn't sound like human screaming the way you expect it to. It sounds like someone had distorted and spliced together screams from multiple sources into one, harmonizing perfectly. Now moments later this scream appears again, only this time the scream feels even closer. Her boyfriend puts his smoke out and grabs a weapon from their truck and they wait in the tent for the rest of the night. When they wake up that next morning and check on their site, the cigar had been taken. Now in some legends, when you hear these creatures far away, when you hear the voice screaming, it means they're closer than you think. So what do you think? Did these two get lucky? Was it just paranoia in the woods setting in? Or did they narrowly avoid being the main characters in the next Blair Witch movie? And that's about all she wrote for this video, my ghouls and my goblins.